So my understanding is that there is an interest in the college entrance essay regarding colleges in the United States. And I'd like to give you a general overview of what that essay might look like, as well as the process of writing that essay, which to my mind, as a writing instructor, doesn't differ all that much from the process that we should engage in when writing any essay whatsoever, because writing is process oriented. I think you see the first screen, the first slide. The entrance essay is a way for admissions officers to get a sense of who you are as an individual. Obviously, they can look at your test scores and your grades, but often the competition to enter certain colleges is so high that the admissions officers want to whittle down the amount of applicants, and the essay can be a way of setting yourself apart from others and showing who you are as an individual. Oftentimes these essays involve such topics as how you faced a particular challenge, a person that you admire and why, your interests and hobbies, as well as accomplishments. So this can be generally considered what we would call a narrative essay, and it is generally also written in the first person. So you can write I, which in many college classes, they move us away from that first person pronoun, but in this case, it's absolutely acceptable and of course necessary. Moving to the next slide, an overview of the process. Once you have read the topic and are sure that you understand the topic, of course, now is the time to engage in the essay writing process, which more or less is going to be comprised of 5 parts. Okay, so the first part of the process is pre-writing. The second is composing a thesis statement. The third is putting together an outline. Once you've done that, you will begin your first draft. And then, of course, after the necessary revisions, a final draft, which is ready for submission. I'm going to talk a little bit about each of these, okay? The first is pre-writing. Pre-writing is exactly what you might think because of that prefix, pre. It's the writing you do before you jump in. This is just a way of gathering your thoughts and writing very freely in response to the topic. The important part with free writing or any kind of pre-write you do, it can also be brainstorming. The most important part is that you don't worry about grammar or the order of your ideas or the quality. This is not being submitted to anyone. It is just a way for you to gather your thoughts and get them onto the page. And it's a very important part of the process. I sometimes like to refer to this as gathering your ingredients before you cook a big meal, okay? Once you've done your pre-writing, now it's time to establish a thesis statement. Now, of course, the thesis statement is the main idea of the entire essay, and in that respect, it is extremely important. In a sense, this is the backbone of your essay, and the rest of your piece will work to support the thesis statement with facts, details, examples, and so on. So the thesis statement must be done first and foremost, early in the process. Moving on from that, we have an outline. Now, the outline is like your blueprint. This is a very important part of the writing process because it enables you to say, here's what I'm going to do, and here's the order I'm going to do it in. If you're talking about an accomplishment in your life, this is where you set up the timeline so that you're not trying to tack on things at the end. This also gives you a sort of bird's eye view of the essay so that you can foresee any challenges that might lie ahead and fix any errors before you jump in and have already dedicated a lot of valuable time and effort. So the plan is extremely important. You'll notice I set it up in a a very simple alphanumeric fashion, but it can also be a bulleted list. It can be very simple, or it can be more in-depth and more formal. It's up to you. Moving on. The first draft of the essay, of course, is extremely important. The essays can range from anywhere from 250 to 650 words. It depends upon the college. And so a typical essay for you will, of course, be comprised of an introductory paragraph, a conclusion, and the number of body paragraphs will vary based upon the word count that the college is requiring, but I usually imagine that it will be 2 to 3 paragraphs. It could go to 4 or 5, but probably we're talking about the 2 to 3 range. The final step, of course, is the final draft. This is where you have put the first draft through various revisions, and that can mean many things. The revisions can be grammatical, of course. They could also involve your timeline. They can touch upon sentence structure and syntax. I think all of you probably know yourselves well as writers, and you know the types of obstacles that you face as well as your strengths. I think it's always a good idea to have someone else look at the draft before submitting it. And of course, if you have an English instructor, a former teacher that is willing to look at the draft, this can be vital because, as you know, another set of eyes, particularly an experienced set of eyes, can always be helpful when it comes to this. And from that point, of course, you are ready to submit the draft to the college along with all of the other necessary documents. And then, of course, we wait.
Thank you. Thank you, Phil. Thank you, Phil. Before you leave us, I'll ask our students if they have any question. They can use the ones that are watching through Zoom. Please feel free to send us any question regarding writing an essay before our teacher Phil Cameron leaves us. And the ones that are watching through Facebook, you can also write your question down there in the chat box, in the comment box. So, and one of the things that we were discussing with teacher Phil Cameron was are the essays part of the mandatory requirement to apply to any university in the US? I guess you had some information about that, Phil.
Yeah, it certainly is not mandatory for all schools. That is one thing that we should keep in mind. Many schools do not require it. In my own research, I found about 300 schools that encourage students to submit an essay. And that's quite a substantial number. But it should be noted that certainly not all schools require the essay.